Welcome back to World War Live, everybody. I'm your host, Conrad Franz, here on Tuesday, August 18th, the evening here in Central Texas. Hope everybody is having a good evening. Want to see everyone in the chat. We got Porphyry Allen in chat, Andrew Palamos, MR Christ is King, Ozcars, Orthodoxy in Russia, Theodosian Wall, Jorge Dubois, and so many more incredible World War Now patriots. Good to see everybody here. Of course, it's the middle of August. The Third World War continues to drag on, and it's in its sort of latent, I guess, pre-explosive phase. Of course, we continue to see flare-ups. Of course, Iran and the Houthis continue to strike tankers in their respective straits and seas all throughout today, yesterday, the past week. Of course, we also see advances on the ground from the Houthis, as well as, of course, new Iranian force postures. We're going to talk about all of that in a second. It's clear the Iranians have threatened the Americans with offensive strikes on our carriers and our naval capabilities that are enforcing our blockade on Iranian ports, as well as, of course, the remnants of our bases in the region that they have largely destroyed. So that's the new force posture. That's the new situation here. Alan says Conrad's hair growing longer to detect disturbances in the ether. That's true. If anyone's seen the movie Begonia, it's the hair through which us Venusian or Martian or whatever, I forget where they're from in Begonia. But yes, we need the hair to communicate with our Agarthan, Aryan, alien contacts in the ether. We've got Nahom in chat, Razan Love JC. Great to see everybody here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to send in a super chat. We're answering any and all super chats as usual this evening. So hope to see some of those coming on in. But like I said, new Iranian force posture. It's clear that they are about to potentially take the offensive to the United States. They are calling for a potential new diplomacy, but that diplomacy comes on the condition that America fully withdraws from its blockade and its other aggressive actions. This includes enforcing Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon and Palestine, as well as potentially even restraining Saudi Arabia as they continue to fund the Presidential Leadership Council, which is the internationally recognized government in Yemen, which, of course, the Houthis, Ansar Allah, continue to defeat and deliver strategic, continue to take territory from the PLC and deliver strategic blows to them across their territories. So that's the situation. The axis of resistance seems fully in control right now of the primary theater in the Third World War. Meanwhile, in Russia, Ukraine, Russia is slowly but surely advancing while Ukraine is mounting very minor counteroffensives to potentially slow the bleeding, but it does still have that air of inevitability when it comes to all of that. But we have $20.26 from Porphyry Allen, Dormition Fast plus Transfiguration contribution to WWN. Glory be to God for all things. Thank you, Porphyry, praying for all of our old calendar patriots as the Dormition Fast has just begun, the Feast of the Transfiguration. Yes, that was also on a Wednesday for us 2 weeks ago on the new calendar. So happy Transfiguration, blessed feast to our old calendar patriots, and I hope you are staying strong in the Dormition Fast, the August Lent, as they call it, the summer Lent, the Lent of the Panagia. It was a good fast this year, so I hope everyone's staying strong, staying in the services, staying in tune with the church calendar. Don't let these witches, don't let these feminists, don't let these Jews get you down. They're blasting us with our goy beams. The lunar energy of the women are countering our male Solarian spirit, but we have to overcome. And to the female World War Now fans, you're not part of the problem. You're good. You're playing a supportive lunar role as opposed to an interfering lunar energy. I'm just talking at this. I'm just yapping. But before we dive into the deeper news analysis, you already know what it is. We have to tell everyone about the World War Now Substack, worldwarnow.co. If you haven't already heard, and I can't imagine what you're doing here if you haven't already heard, but worldwarnow.co is our home base, our home central node of operations. This is where everything drops initially. If you're not, on the worldwarnow.co email list, you're not really a World War Now patriot. Those patriots are getting every episode of World War Now, every episode of Ether Hour, every live stream notification directly in their email inbox the moment it happens, ready to tune in. And the real ether-pilled Ether Hour World War Now patriots are behind the paywall, giving us that just $7 a month or $75 a year if you want to save a little bit of money. And they get access not only to the free preview of the Ether Hour episodes, which in this case is about 34 minutes, you get access to the full hour and a half, in this example, conversation with Ubi Petrus. But if you click the Ether Hour tab here, you see everything that you get access to, the full interviews that we've done, again, with Ubi Petrus, Denny, Jose Nino the previous week, our good friend Christopher from the Holy Wisdom YouTube channel. Father Peter here's in a smash hit episode all about preparing for World War III. We, of course, have Dr. David Patrick Harry, our final part in our series about Rasputin, Maria Z, and a fantastic, huge episode all about digital ID. We, of course, have our recent discussions with former Defense Minister of Lebanon, Yaqub Saraf, former U.S. Senate Foreign Policy Advisor Jim Jatras, my good friend Andrei Afanasyev, Donbass war correspondent, so many other incredible guests, former member of the European Parliament, Nick Griffin, our good friend Mike Painovich from over on the TRS network, really the widest swath of guests and in-depth analysis from a right-wing, geopolitically realist, and of course, Orthodox prophetic perspective. I just don't know what anyone's doing if they're not already behind the paywall again at worldwarnow.co. We're dropping it in the live chat. See, Oscar says here, highly recommend getting Ether Hour. The Ubi interview and Father Peter here is my favorite ones. You heard it here, man. People are loving the content, and in my opinion, it's very fair. Look, is Netflix dropping content every week that you actually want to watch? Everyone has their Netflix subscriptions to watch like the 2 shows they like. You watched Breaking Bad, you watched Better Call Saul, and then and then you've pretty much done it. And then what? You watch a few movies that are probably not going to be on Netflix next year anyway because they're losing all of their IP. Instead, you should direct those funds towards the World War Now archive, the Ether Hour archive. Because again, you don't just get access to all this content. Every 6 weeks or so, we have a Q&A thread that all paid subscribers get to ask us whatever questions they want to be answered in the form of a major Ether Hour episode, answering those questions at length. And of course, there's also premium Discord chats on our Discord server, only accessible to premium paid Ether Pilled subscribers. So see people, Soaker City says link clicked. That's what we like to see. We're converting those links. We're getting new people funneled in to the Ether Hour network. That's what we like to hear, really getting, and that's how we spread the word. More people are going to hear the words of some of these people that we talk to who really elucidate, the worldview, I think, that undergirds a World War Now-esque understanding. We talk about these prophecies. We give everyone 2+ hours of free World War III analysis every week. And if you listen to Ether Hour, you really understand the full worldview with which we're bringing to that analysis. So it's really critical stuff. And if you're already behind the paywall at worldwarnow.co, be sure to go to the buymeacoffee.com/World War Now. This is how you can support us beyond just the monthly subscription. This is my full-time job. Dimitri supports his family as well. So it's important that anyone that wants to support, we give them the ability to. So whether you're already behind the paywall and want to give us a bit more, or you don't want to get behind the paywall for some reason and just want to give us a one-time subscription to show your support, do that at buymeacoffee.com/World War Now. Really great way to support the show. Just like I said, keep the lights on here at the proverbial World War Now bunker. But final plug here, of course, that is this episode's sponsor. It's our good friends over at Antelope Hill. At antelopehillpublishing.com. You too can get all of their incredible dissident publications, new translations of real lost history, Germany and Stalin's crosshairs by Bernd Schwipper, new selected speeches of Mussolini, and of course, if you go to their modern 2000, year 2000 and onward section, you can of course find Kevin McDonald's Culture of Critique, available in its 3rd edition, exclusively from antelopehillpublishing.com. And all of these books can be purchased for the incredible 10% discount if you use code WWN. So if you want dissident literature, odds are it's on antelopehillpublishing.com. Check out the Culture of Critique. Check out The Burning Souls by Leon DeGrelle. I have it somewhere. I should actually grab it real quick. That's right. We're reading The Burning Souls. We're reading other incredible works here that have been suppressed by the post-war technocracy. So check out antelopehillpublishing.com. Get this book, Burning Souls, Culture of Critique, so many others with code WWN, 10% off. They really help us out. So great to hear and see support from them. But you already know what time it is. It's time to get into the World War III analysis. That's why you're all here. We have $5 from Andrew Palamas. Shekels for the cause, through the prayers of our righteous Athenite fathers and of the Panagia, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy upon us and save us. Thank you, Patriot. I guess, the only way to get a free subscription behind the paywall is to become an Orthodox monastic. All Orthodox monastics do have privileges behind the paywall. We have, a dozen or so monastics that tune into the show, and they get to go behind the paywall for free because, all I ask for in return is their prayers amidst their struggles. So Godspeed to all the noetic warriors out there in the monasteries. Hope everyone's doing well. They don't tune into the live streams as much for for obvious reasons, but many of them enjoy the Ether Hours and enjoy the weekly World War III analysis. Doesn't, they can just listen to that, they feel, and not have to tune into any of the other stuff or actually keep up with the news, because we bring it from the Orthodox perspective. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you Andrew and Porphyry so far for the super chats. All support, of course, is very welcome. And again, ask whatever questions you want. If you want to hear me yap about something specific, feel free to send in a super chat, and I will do my best to talk about it if I feel I have anything relevant to say. But it's important now. We're talking about, the title of the stream is Iran on the Offensive. What has changed in the force posture of the Iranians that was mostly defensive? And that is apparently, yeah, so I'm talking about fishback. We'll talk about fishback in a second for sure. But something has shifted in the Iranian policy. It was defensive. They were basically trying to just survive amidst total Israeli-U.S. assault. But now that they seem to have fully maintained control of the Strait of Hormuz despite total Zog assault, they are now changing the game. And this is according to Middle Eastern Spectator. It says, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Ismail Bagheya said there is no such thing as a 60-day ceasefire. There was supposed to be a period of cessation of hostilities for 60 days in which the U.S. and Iran would try to reach a deal. If it did not succeed, but provided the U.S. If it did not succeed, but provided the U.S. abided by its commitments, this would have been extended. But the U.S. never abided by a single one of the MOU terms, and no serious talks ever began. Therefore, there is nothing to extend, and the issue of the 60-day ceasefire is completely void and irrelevant. So he's openly saying there is no ceasefire in place, despite the fact that many people were implying that there was still an extended one of the Memorandum of Understanding. And then here we have spokesman for the Revolutionary Guard to Tasnim, which is, again, major IRGC voice outlet. Trump's claims about behind-the-scenes talks with the IRGC are delusions stemming from defeat. We've been saying this. There are no talks between the IRGC officials and Americans. Based on our information and confirmation from foreign ministry officials, there are currently no negotiations with Washington. And here's the new force posture. Iran has issued an ultimatum to the United States: return to serious diplomacy and remove the naval blockade or face an expansion of the war. The deadline, which is said to be several weeks at most, has been communicated to the United States through Pakistan and Qatar, according to Reuters. So some might say 2 weeks. That would be at the exact end of August, first week of September. You got to give it to them. And of course, for those that are, still on the fence about Ether Hour, we interviewed Cameron McGregor this week, great friend of the show, incredible analyst when it comes to geopolitical happenings. And his analysis is also that big things are coming, and September could be when we see it happening. So get behind the paywall to be the first ones to get access to the Cameron McGregor Ether Hour episode. And we talk about exactly this ultimatum and this deadline that the Iranians have given, and what that strike may look like. Potential strike on the USS Abraham Lincoln, the USS George Washington, which went to replace the Lincoln. The reports of terrible conditions on these aircraft carriers have been confirmed by families of the soldiers. Trump has called those soldiers and their families liars. So we're basically just in full Zio Jew slave mode here, where Trump is just insulting Americans, the troops themselves that are dying, just in his slavish devotion to the Zionist entity. It's really pathetic to see. But that is the current state of the U.S. military, and the U.S. military is not in a good place. Cameron McGregor, we break all that down in the coming Ether Hour episode this week. We have $10 from Mike. Does it seem like to you that as the noticing continues, especially by Orthodox Christians, there seems to be a kosher conservative attempted gatekeeping to get us back in the matrix? Well, you asked this, and thankfully my audience is smart enough to not be in the chat yapping about the Andrew Wilson, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk debate. But here's my perspective. My perspective on all of this, and I don't think Andrew necessarily has any malicious intent. I really don't know him that well. I'm really more in touch with his wife, Rachel, who has been on the show multiple times. And, I talk more about the feminism stuff than I really talk about any of the kind of Trump political stuff. I'm not a Trump. Everyone knows I'm sort of a Trump hater, but I'm not like going and debating people about Trump. That's just not really my MO. But looking at the Candace Andrew Wilson debate, obviously Candace and Dan Bilzerian, Jake Shields, these people sort of represent this kind of retardization of the conspiracy space. I mean, look, I think the earth is literally flat. I believe in a biblical come on now. I believe in a biblical cosmology. I literally think that a 13th century Byzantine emperor is going to rise up from the ashes of destroyed Constantinople to lead a revived Orthodox empire. So I'm not allergic to conspiracy theories. I know these things. I'm willing to accept very meta level critiques and things that, again, maybe even things that have minimal, what you would call forensic physical evidence that you could prove in the court of law. But fundamentally, this Charlie Kirk thing just went off the goop. Israel there's no evidence that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And I'm not saying that something might not have been up there, but a whole lot of claims were made without any evidence. And I think with free speech on X, the Zionists, the powers that be, I think allowed sort of this slopification of the conspiracy truth space, specifically when it comes to Israel. Because look, Candace never really went full JQ. She was just critical of Israel Zionists and the genocide in Gaza. Now all those people that were, very Israel critical, exposing sort of Kabbalistic control in the government Israel, they're all been completely debunked because of this ridiculous conspiracy slop. And then you have the other side of things like Andrew Wilson, who he basically serves, if you don't want to accept that, the conspiracy craziness, people that have rejected Trump and, they're Epstein pilled, all this kind of stuff, people's moms are into this stuff. I mean, this is a phenomenon. And then on the other side, you have Andrew Wilson, who basically serves to bring people back onto the Trump plantation. And look, I know a lot of people that still like Trump that are sincere. I'm not saying everyone's controlled opposition or whatever, but Trump is not the way. And the situation, send Elias in the chat and make this guy Elias watch the Space is Fake video with me and Anthony Westgate. But people see Andrew Wilson and they think, oh, well, he's slapping around these idiot conspiracy people that think Israel killed Charlie Kirk with no evidence. He's bringing people back into the Trump world, which I think is a mistake. And we need to forge a different path. And this is why I think Fuentes is largely right on this front. I didn't even watch the debate. I do not care, frankly, about the Charlie Kirk situation. It just doesn't matter to me. There's a lot more important things to focus on. And guess who didn't talk about Charlie Kirk? The Orthodox saints. So I don't think we need to spend too much time talking about that. But again, look, if people want to think it's a conspiracy or not, feel free to do so. Just recognize that it is a waste of time to talk about, and it is fundamentally a distraction. We have $5 from Andrew Palamos. Any thoughts on the likelihood of a false flag to motivate the U.S. normie? Yes, I think there's a very high possibility of that. Why do you think Israel gave Trump and the CIA that intelligence about What do you think they gave those intelligence to the CIA supposedly about Trump getting assassinated in Ankara? That was fake intelligence. That was a fake Israeli story. And I think that was obviously meant to seed the idea of Trump being assassinated in sort of the world mind and the collective unconscious. And so now if something happens, they'll blame the Iranians. Look, the Israelis have thousands of people embedded in the IRGC, in the Iranian infrastructure of things that can act. They have Persian Jews that look just like Iranians, change their names. They have Iranians that have been betrayed, that have had their families threatened, that could easily carry out an operation from within Iran or within Iraq amongst these Popular Mobilization Force militias to do something like take out Donald Trump or take out Erdogan or something like this. Like, this is extremely likely. And I think a false flag, we all need to be extremely wary of that. And we need to, again, the anti-war thing is much more important than all this kind of crazy Charlie Kirk stuff that Candace Owens got everyone involved in. What's most important is resisting Zog getting us involved in a war that will kill hundreds of thousands of Americans if we let it go on the ground, which is where it seems to be headed. $10 from Steve Grady. First and former military content creators trying to normalize the recent Navy news. They say things like, as conflict drags on, the food just gets worse, minimizing the mental stuff too. Well, the type of conflict we're seeing in the Persian Gulf is something we haven't seen since like pre-2010 in the Middle East. So all those people talking about a very different era, 20 plus years ago. And again, we've seen pictures and videos of the Iranian rations. IRGC soldiers get 3 boiled eggs, a potato wedge, and like a slice of cheese or bread or something every day. And look, those guys are fighting an apocalyptic war for their religion. And meanwhile, Americans who are, where's the picture? We've all seen the image, right, of what the American soldiers are riding on the wing of this plane. Yeah, we've seen it. IRGC soldiers are, husbands and fathers and sons are like rushing to fight for the IRGC to defend their homeland. Meanwhile, American soldiers, says here, U.S. servicemen in the Persian Gulf have scribbled messages on the dust of an aircraft flap per an image from the field sent to Triti Parsi. The messages include, be a good guy and do what Israel tells you. Operation Epstein Fury. Peace deal number 64 incoming. All this for the Holy Land. Love Israel. I'm a good goyim. BB's Bucks. I heart flock cameras. A U.S. serviceman adds, what people in the media don't understand when they compare past conflicts to this one is that operation has no morale behind it. That makes a world of difference to service members deployed in undesirable locations. And definitely, look, these are the people we expect to storm the beaches of Bandar Abbas and Keshem Island. for Zog, and they're joking about being Zog slaves on base. At a certain level, they're just gonna be like, nah, man, like, we don't want to. And, Israel's gonna get very angry. And this is why Israel and these Jews talk about how America will fall. They don't want to defend Israel, And, I think, people are realizing that Americans don't want to die for Zog. So they're picking out other options. What does Mark Levin think now? Well, Mark Levin says, let's see what Chief Jew Mark Levin has to say.
Why is it so difficult? First, the Iranian regime is not going to surrender. It is never going to surrender. We've been in wars before where we fought enemies that wouldn't surrender either. Remember the kamikazes? Remember Japan? Remember the emperor was like a demigod to the people back then? Tojo was very stubborn, very headstrong. And unfortunately, we had to drop 2 atomic bombs until they would surrender. Obviously, we're not going to do that now. But I'm talking about an enemy that is dug in. Why is it so difficult?
He says,
first, the Iranian regime.
It's clear that Levin is clearly trying to implant the idea of using nuclear weapons against Iran. That's how this is clearly going here. But again, today, the big news actually that occurred today was Israel's strike on Syrian military base. U.S. overtly criticized this. It says here Israel carried out airstrikes on a defunct military airbase in northwestern Syria on Tuesday, prompting the United States to condemn the attack as a threat to regional stability in the latest outburst of American frustration with Israel. 8 airstrikes hit the Abu al-Duhar military airbase in Idlib, a city about 40 miles from the border with Turkey, according to the Syrian state media, and did not cause any casualties. The Trump administration has been a vocal proponent of Syria's new government led by President Ahmed al-Shara, and the U.S. Special Envoy to Syria and Iraq, Tom Barak, said in a statement on social media that Israel's actions constitute an unnecessary escalation. The al-Shara government has neither adopted a predatory posture nor maintained proxy forces. Mr. Barak, who is also the U.S. ambassador to Turkey, added, it has in fact repeatedly indicated a preference for de-escalation with Israel. Mr. Barak's comments followed a series of fractures between Israel and the United States in recent months over the conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon, as well as the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, once close partners, have taken increasingly different approaches in the region. Mr. Trump chose to pursue a diplomatic path with Iran to end their war despite Israeli objections. With respect to Gaza, Mr. Netanyahu rejected a U.S.-backed deal for Hamas to disarm this month. Mr. Trump has also backed Mr. Shara, even as Mr. Netanyahu and his allies have voiced extreme skepticism. Mr. Netanyahu faces a difficult re-election campaign this fall, adding to pressure on him to avoid making any concessions that opponents might seize as evidence of weakness. He has also adopted a more hardline security doctrine following the Hamas-led attacks on Israel on October 7th, blah, blah, blah. In a statement posted on X, Netanyahu's office defended the strikes on the airbase, saying Israel and Syria agreed to a status quo on security matters, which Syria was on the verge of breaching by permitting Turkish troops to deploy at an airbase near Aleppo. So remember what I was saying. It's not just a false flag Trump assassination. The Israelis might kill Erdogan, as we've discussed in the prophecies on the show, but blame it on Iran. Because we're talking with Cameron McGregor, Turkey seems more and more likely to be supporting Iran in the midst of this conflict. The social media post continued. Israel repeatedly warned Syria that such a deployment would pose a threat to Israel's security. Syria chose to ignore these warnings. Israel will not tolerate threats to its security and would welcome a return to the status quo. 2 Syrian government officials, speaking on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak to the news media, said the strikes followed a recent visit by a Turkish delegation to the airfield as part of discussions to rehabilitate it. The Syrian airbase has been out of service since 2013, and control of this facility changed several times during the nearly 14-year civil war between the government of Bashar al-Assad and rebel forces. The strikes are part of a broader pattern of Israeli military activity in Syria since rebels led by Mr. al-Shara swept into the capital Damascus in 2024 and overthrew Mr. al-Assad. Syria's new government has rapidly consolidated authority across the country, bringing relative calm after a brutal conflict. Still, that calm remains fragile, punctuated by sporadic attacks from Islamic State and other extremist groups, as well as sectarian tensions that erupted into violence twice last year. Al-Shara has been more open to engaging with Israel than his predecessors, obviously, who maintained hostility toward it for 5 decades. His government has taken part in U.S.-brokered back-channel discussions with Israel aimed at easing tensions, the first such talks in more than a decade. Mr. Barak played a key role in orchestrating the conversations. Mr. al-Shara's openness reflects a broader reordering of alliances across the Middle East in recent years. Mr. al-Assad's government was closely allied with Iran and hostile to Turkey, but the new Syrian government has reversed both relationships. So, of course, Turkey moving into Syria, Israel using that as a pretext to expand their sphere of influence into Syria, into Lebanon, into these other places. $5 from Andrew Palamos. 100% accurate that Charlie Kirk, while tragic, is a distraction. It's all a distraction from our real work, repentance. So true. People are turning the Charlie Kirk thing into this spiritual thing, and it's like, oh boy, that's just going to get people attached to evangelical spirituality and all this other kind of stuff. Like, the whole situation, I think, is just not worth looking at. It could have been an opportunity for Donald Trump to punish the left and for America to sort of do something about this like radical far left problem, but no, it's turned into a distraction. But again, the situation in Syria, I think, is the most critical. Erdogan is apparently visiting Syria at the end of this month. Let's see, yeah, here we go. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan plans to visit Syria soon, reviving a trip initially scheduled for April but postponed after the outbreak of the Iran war in February. Erdogan pledged that Turkey would do everything possible to bolster stability in its neighbors, stressing that Syria will not be alone, according to excerpts from a television interview carried by Turkish media on Sunday. He predicted that Syrian Kurds would play a role in peace and stability and pledged to strengthen Turkey's ties with Turkish communities across the region. Erdogan also cited Parliament's approval of legislation on strengthening national solidarity and social integration, known as the Framework Law, allowing members of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, to return and reintegrate into Turkish society as part of the terror-free Turkey process. The Kurdish side calls the initiative the Peace and Democratic Society process, centered on the PKK's dissolution and disarmament, along with affiliated groups. Erdogan's remarks coincided with comments attributed to the pro-government Turkey newspaper to Mahmoud Berkadan, a Syrian Democrat Forces commander in Ain al-Arab or Kobani. So they're talking about this SDF, which is largely Kurdish militia group that had till the very end had been resisting the central government in Syria. They finally integrated into the Damascus government. It says here, Turkish ambassador to Damascus, Nu Yilmaz, revealed Friday that Erdogan had been considering a visit around April 21st, but the Iran war and closure of airspace prevented it. The date had not been finalized before regional developments intervened. This will 100% be occurring before the end of the year. And again, there are elders and people, monks and holy people in the church that have said Erdogan will be returning from Libya or Syria and will be shot down. And it seems to me it would likely be by Israel. Could be by Israel, blamed on other groups, blamed on Iran. If it was the United States, undoubtedly it would be blamed on Iran. If it was Trump that gets taken down, and if it's Erdogan and Turkey, they might say the same thing. Who knows? Maybe they'll blame it on radical Kurdish groups or something. And there's all sorts of ways that it could be who it could be blamed on. But again, in the midst of all of this, again, Israel expands their operations into Syria. The prophecies continue to be fulfilled when it comes to the movements towards the fall of Erdogan. Of course, the Gaza situation continues to escalate. New strikes have been approved. So St. Paisios' words about Gaza being flattened like a stadium continues to go forward. And again, Greece and Israel expand their military partnerships. And the rhetoric against Turkey continues to expand. I mean, look, I literally, before these strikes on Syria even happened, if you listen to World War Now, I predicted this week. I said, once the Iran situation sort of crests its next chapter, whatever that is, I think it's going to be a big resumption of conflict, and the U.S. is going to be slapped in the face and forced to, I think, accept a humiliating peace. After that kind of plays itself out, Israel is going to return to the playbook before. And what was the playbook before? Of course, they waged the 12-day war. America and Israel did Operation Midnight Hammer. Israel, earlier that year, killed Ismail Haniyeh with precision strikes on Tehran, the leader of Hamas. They killed IRGC officers operating at the Iranian embassy in Syria. Major diplomatic breach of protocol escalation that demanded an Iranian response. I believe that was True Promise 1. And then you, of course, had their strikes on Hamas facilities in Doha, Qatar, completely unprovoked. Qatar, ally of the United States, host of CENTCOM headquarters. They did all of this, and the U.S. condemned it, and Iran had to respond and whatnot. Look, again, remember, there were those strikes on the base in Turkey that Iran denied. It's clear that with these new strikes on Syria that Israel just conducted, once the Iran situation is finished, or even while it's going on, Israel is going to escalate that same style of tactic. And to me, the most obvious beneficial way for Israel to do that would be to take out Erdogan on his flight back from Syria in some kind of, again, false flag event. And that would be an escalatory an escalation still in line with the escalatory ladder they've been following so far. And Israel has always been escalating. They've never toned things down. They've never adopted a force posture different than what they want to conform to America. As we speak right now, Israel is waging major strikes on the Ali al-Taher heights in southern Lebanon, striking all across the region. Right here, according to antiwar.com, Israel steps up strikes, offensive against southern Lebanon, anticipates ground combat. Israeli forces continued their offensive against southern Lebanon on Monday, with an airstrike reportedly targeting a location in Wadi al-Hujar, as Israeli ground vehicles advance deeper into the country, with sporadic machine gun fire being reported. Troops are advancing chiefly in the Ali al-Taher area, which Israeli officials have been presenting as an important southern holding from Hezbollah, despite being notably outside of the area of Lebanon that Israel had previously occupied. Israel's Channel 12 is reporting that the Israeli army has been told to prepare for several days of combat in the course of the Ali al-Taher invasion, anticipating that they'll face some resistance by the fighters in the area. The push began over the weekend with the deadliest strikes Israel has launched since mid-June, when a negotiated deal with the Lebanese government started a relatively reduced rate of attacks. However, the latest round of talks adjourned for the month. A new offensive was quick to follow. The U.S., according to reports, gave Israel the green light to invade and seize Ali al-Taher on the understanding that Israel would exercise restraint on other fronts and take diplomatic steps to try to advance the talks next time they're held. These silly goyim, man, imagine believing that. The Ali al-Taher hills overlook the Nabateh district, and Israel has had designs on occupying much of that during the course of the invasion. They see the hills as a potential source of resistance to that occupation, so they also have decided to seize them. Israeli officials tried to frame the push as retaliation for Hezbollah resistance to their occupation, which they said amounted to a violation of the ceasefire agreement, which Hezbollah was never a party to, but which intended to impose a myriad of restrictions on them. So again, that's what's going on in Lebanon. Unless you think that Trump is actually going for peace, like that article just said, the U.S. gave the Israelis and the Jews the green light to go into Ali al-Taher, where undoubtedly Hezbollah is going to fight to the bitter, bitter end. There's new breaking news that I'm going to read right after this. But of course, Trump is still expanding his violent rhetoric across the region. Trump threatens to bomb the shit out of Oman over its talks with Iran. President Trump on Monday threatened to bomb the shit out of Oman over the Gulf states' talks with Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, despite U.S. officials previously backing Muscat's efforts to reach a deal with Tehran. Fox News reporter Trey Yingst said he asked the president about the talks between Oman and Iran, and Trump replied, "If Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the shit out of them." Back in May, Trump threatened to blow up Oman if the country reached a deal with Iran that would involve joint control with Iran of the Strait of Hormuz, which Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent followed with a threat to aggressively target Muscat with sanctions if it was involved in a tolling system for the strait. Iran said it reached an understanding with Oman on the Strait of Hormuz, but that it didn't mean the waterway would be fully open until the U.S. ends the blockade of Iranian ports and fulfills other commitments it agreed to under the U.S. Memorandum of Understanding, which officially expired on Monday. In his interview with Yingst, Trump also said that Iran should put up the white flag of surrender and suggested that he was content with the current status quo. "I have no time schedule," Trump said. "I'm not in a hurry. The midterms have nothing to do with my thinking." Trump and other officials in his administration have said they are now focusing on economic pressure through sanctions and the blockade. Iranian officials have suggested they will not sit back and allow the U.S. to maintain the current status quo and could go on the offensive. "The enemy should know that it cannot catch us off guard," Brigadier General Yadollah Jovani, the political deputy of the IRGC, said on Monday, according to Press TV. "Instead, it is the enemy that must anticipate strategic surprises." And again, as of the past 30 minutes, CNN reports President Trump has formally instructed his administration to cease all diplomatic talks with Iran, instead shifting to a maximum economic pressure campaign to convince Iran to capitulate. This is from Middle East Spectator. President Trump has adopted a maximum pressure campaign against Iran since his withdrawal from the JCPOA in 2018, and it has not succeeded, nor will it succeed now. In essence, this is Trump admitting defeat and unilaterally reverting to the status quo, but Iran will not allow this. In the coming days and weeks, Iran will be escalating and dictating the pace, putting pressure on the U.S. to force it to make necessary concessions. So like the title of the stream couldn't be more vindicated. Iran is not only on the offensive, they are in the driver's seat. They are commanding, they are commanding the battlefield, they are commanding the negotiations, and they are forcing America to revert back to this sort of, they're talking about, we don't have to use our troops, we're powerful enough economically. No, that's just you admitting you are incapable of completing this job militarily and that you lost. And now Iran is going to be making maximalist demands. They will be charging tolls on the Strait of Hormuz. They will be asking for sanctions relief. They will be asking for the complete U.S. withdrawal from the Middle East. And America's going to have, Trump and Zog are going to have to find a way to save face. And what do I think is going to happen? I think Trump's going to try to save face. Trump's going to try to wiggle out of this. and make it less of a stink and a hole that's dug, stop digging an already very deep hole. And Israel's not going to let him do it. Israel is going to act on their own. They maintain the right. They've said it. They maintain the right to unilaterally act against Iran. And if Israel attacks Iran, Iran will obviously attempt to destroy Israel, but they will also, again, they will exercise those strikes against Saudi Aramco, against UAE oil processing, against Qatari LNG, against Kuwait, against everybody. Why are we blurry? There we go. But in the midst of all of this, the Houthis have continued to strike Saudi Aramco. Let me just make sure I get all these different Saudi sites. They all have these same names. But yeah, the port of Mocha in Yemen, which was owned by the Saudi-operated PLC, has been destroyed by the Houthis. And every week, and it's literally just for drones violating Ansar Allah airspace, the Houthis continue to strike Saudi Aramco. And the energy crunch that we're experiencing is getting devastating. It says here, Bloomberg reports that Asian refiners are seeking to lift Saudi crude from Egypt's Mediterranean port of Sidi Kerir rather than Yanbu, as security risks in the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandeb make it increasingly difficult to secure vessels willing to sail the route. So again, the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. The Bab el-Mandeb Straits is blocked. The Suez Canal is under threat of missiles. We remember the Yemenis or some of their proxies struck U.S. oil facilities near the entrance of the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean Sea. The Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits are in a state of partial closure to Russian and Ukrainian ships. They're not allowing them to go and dock at Ukrainian and Russian ports in the Sea of Azov, in the Black Sea, Odessa, Crimea. So we're experiencing chokeholds in strategic pipelines. Like 3 of the 6 most important strategic chokeholds in the world for shipping are basically closed now. And our strategic petroleum reserve has never been lower currently in the United States. And we are on the verge. Eventually, there are going to start being those shortages. And what did we talk about? It was initially we said 7 to 8 weeks. It's been about 4 or 5 weeks since all that happened. So 3-4 weeks from now, again, I think the beginning of those shortages, whether it's grain and things at the store, or whether it's fuel, I think we're really going to start to see the beginning of that, because the Iranians clearly are in the driver's seat and they know how to properly punish us, Zog, and its actors and its operators, which is, of course, the United States. Here are some visuals from the strike. The Israelis, 8 Israeli airstrikes hit Abu al-Duhur Air Base in northwestern Syria early Tuesday, targeting the runway and storage facilities. So you can see the differences here in the strikes and what was going down. I talked about the conditions on the USS Abraham Lincoln. This is just one of the aircraft one of the aircraft carriers operating. It could be the George Washington, I guess, but disgusting moldy showers. Interesting conditions. Global bond markets catching on fire. This is an interesting map from the southern Yemen conflict as the Houthis Ansar Allah continue to advance. Here, the Japanese yen is, of course, collapsing. Trying to find, there's some energy news that I'm trying to find. Yes, of course, unfortunately, James Fishback appears to have finished 3rd. I was really hoping he would at least finish 2nd. But, we wait for 100% of the vote to come in. It seems like Fishback, he may not even be able to break 15%, which is not ideal. I think we'd all hoped he'd get something like 20% and would really kind of impress us. But, it's not all done yet, so we'll see. We'll see how he finishes up. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he can win. Yeah, earlier in the week, Iran seized an Emirati oil tanker. Okay, here we go. We're talking about some stuff with Turkey. It says Turkey's Hurriyet published a provocative Aegean map that visually absorbs large areas of Greek maritime space into a Turkish zone, omitting most Greek islands and echoing past crimes like Imia. The move comes right after Ankara announced 2 new marine parks, which Athens condemns as unilateral actions, undermining Greek sovereign rights. While maps cannot alter borders or international law, this depiction functions as political messaging. Yeah, the Turks are continuing to push forward their blue homeland legislation. It says here, the Turks, after declaring marine parks, will test the Greek government. It's likely that on the 30th of August, 2026, Ankara will issue another announcement regarding marine parks. The prolonged Greek pre-election period and Israel's elections in October act as temptation for Turkey to push further. Greece responded strongly to Ankara's new double provocation, the declaration of marine parks in the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean surrounding Greek islands, categorically rejecting the Turkish plan as a unilateral and illegal action that cannot create fait accompli against Greek sovereign rights. This was the political and diplomatic response. However, military reaction to Turkish moves may also be required. One Turkish park is mapped in the northern Aegean, west of Imbros and Tenedos, and between Samothrace and Lemnos. The second is in the eastern Mediterranean, stretching from the area northeast of Rhodes toward the Gulf of Antalya. Turkey is essentially moving to establish on the ground its notorious blue homeland doctrine. Given Greece's prolonged pre-election period and Israel's elections in October, it is very likely that Turkey will attempt to impose or test Greek reaction in the Aegean. A possible scenario of a military incident in the Aegean, a possible scenario triggered by the marine parks, is based on Turkey's unilateral declaration of environmental protection zones in areas beyond its territorial waters, challenging Greek sovereignty or sovereign rights such as the northeastern Aegean or near Greek islands. Athens considers these actions illegal. Crisis scenario. Phase 1, legal and operational escalation. Turkey issues presidential decrees and maps for national marine parks, reaching areas near Greek islands or disputed delimitations. It then orders state research or Coast Guard vessels to enter these zones for supposed environmental monitoring or seabed surveys. Phase 2, surface unit engagement. The Hellenic Navy and Coast Guard respond by sending patrol vessels and frigates to monitor Turkish movements and assert Greek jurisdiction. Ankara counters with strong naval escort, claiming its marine parks fall under Turkish authority. Phase 3, hot incident. During a dangerous maneuver between warships of both countries in Greek continental shelf areas or near the 6-mile limit, an accidental or controlled collision occurs. A limited warning shots are exchanged. Military alert. Both sides place their armed forces on maximum alert. Dogfights and fighter jet engagements occur over the Aegean while submarines are deployed. All scenarios end with NATO or EU involvement, but anyone who believes the alliance or Brussels will intervene quickly in such incidents is gravely mistaken. If Turkish forces land on a rocky islet or uninhabited small island, they will not withdraw except through Greek military action, ignoring any Western recommendations. Once the first shot is fired in the Aegean, the previous status quo cannot be restored through diplomatic calls or mediation. Even if the US, NATO, or EU intervene, it will concern only Greece, which must first repel or retake any small islands targeted by Turkey, and only then discuss anything further. And look, Turkey still occupies Cyprus. NATO doesn't do anything about that. And we talked with Cameron McGregor. NATO is effectively dead. I mean, with Turkey being in this new alliance with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, it's clear they're moving more towards the Islamic world. Turkey could easily throw aside NATO if something as escalatory as this were to occur. I mentioned this earlier. Families of U.S. sailors denounced Trump and Hegseth for dismissing their experiences and calling them liars. The Guardians talked to 3 naval families who've been following the physical and mental stressing bearing down on their relatives while with mounting alarm. The families with loved ones on board the USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Tripoli all spoke anonymously on fear of retribution against their active duty relatives. They spoke of insufficient nourishment that has led to close relatives losing 20 or 30 pounds in weight since they were sent to the Middle East 5 months ago, leaving one sailor emaciated, according to his mother. They spoke also of low-quality drinking water and scarce mental health counseling and support despite the intense burden of being at sea for months on end without making land. Just as we were talking about the EU and NATO with Turkey, it says Turkish President Erdogan says Europe does not appear willing to admit Turkey into the European Union. Erdogan further added that joining the European Union is not our top priority, and Europe would be the one that loses out from Turkey not joining. So it's clear that Erdogan is preparing to take more unilateral military action that goes against the status quo of things. He's not going to go against Greece and invade a Greek island if he is actually trying to join the European Union. Obviously, that would immediately preclude him. In more Black Sea news, we saw a Ukrainian drone struck the Greek tanker Skiros in the Black Sea after it had loaded oil at the port of Novorossiysk. So Greek tanker still loading up Russian oil. Greek media published a video of the attack featuring a drone carrying out a reconnaissance flight over the sea and then striking the deck bridge of the Greek tanker. A fire breaks out immediately after the strike, though it is unclear whether any crew members have been injured. It is believed that the attack was carried out by a drone operated by the Ukrainian authorities, who have recently carried out similar attacks on tankers loaded with oil from this Russian port. And recently, again, the reason Erdogan is able to behave the way that he does is he has the backing of Trump. And he says President Erdogan held a phone call with President Trump to discuss bilateral ties and regional global developments. Erdogan urged Trump to make maximum use of diplomacy with Iran, expressing hope that talks will continue and saying Turkey will continue supporting efforts towards peace. The Turkish president also raised concerns over increasingly disruptive Israeli actions against Palestinians as the Gaza peace process approaches its second phase, while reaffirming Turkey's support for a lasting settlement and the reconstruction of Gaza. And Turkey is reportedly offered to mediate between the U.S. and Iran following the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan. Trump bombing the shit out of Iran. Some updates from Ukraine as Ukraine mounts some very minor counteroffensives. This was interesting. An Su-35 fighter jet entered Ukrainian-controlled airspace for the first time in years, launched a cruise missile at Sumy, which impacted. So very interesting. New the most forward deployment of an Su-35 we've seen in the Russia-Ukraine war. Yeah, Trump doubles down on calling the families of U.S. sailors liars, claiming the reports about the precarious living conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln are fake news. Here's an image from the Israeli strikes on the Syrian airbase. This was another development, speaking of the bad conditions in the Gulf. USS Benfold, a guided missile destroyer, lost all power for 4 days in the South China Sea and after a generator failure in July 24. So that's the kind of thing that could still happen in the Gulf as well. This is, I talked about the Lebanon situation at the Ali Al-Taher Heights. This is a map of that. The top of this mountain is where Hezbollah is holed up. Nabateh is, of course, also a Hezbollah stronghold. So the Israelis want to take this, undoubtedly, I think, before moving against the city of Nabateh to be able to have the high ground advantage over when the urban warfare really begins. Haaretz reports the Israeli military has decided not to allow Hezbollah operatives trapped in tunnels beneath southern Lebanon's Ali Al-Taher Ridge to leave unless they surrender. Hamid reports Israel's preparing an operation to seize the area. Hezbollah is trying to resupply fighters trapped in underground facilities who have emerged searching for food. Now we're U.S. interest expenses on the national debt hit a record 1.4 trillion the past few months. We had Galibaf, Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the U.S. naval blockade is lifted. Our frozen assets are released. Oil sanctions are removed. Threats and military operations on all fronts end in all terms of the Memorandum of Understanding. Why are we still talking about the Memorandum of Understanding, bro? See, Yemeni armed forces Houthi still striking Saudi oil tankers in the Bab el-Mandeb. That was just 6 hours ago. Americans think squeezing Iran harder will win concessions that were never part of the agreement. Besant and Hegseth their way out of their league. Stop waiting for the clown crew to pull a rabbit out of their hat and clean up the mess you made. That's from Galibaf, Speaker of the Iranian Majlis. The UAE announced all trade, commercial exchanges, and financial transactions with Iran have been halted in light of regional escalations, likely referring to an early Iranian ballistic missile that landed in Emirati territorial waters. In the past few weeks, I think it was 4 or 5 different flights from the UAE went to Iran to drop off gold and cash to try to basically bribe the Iranians into not striking them. The Iranians have denied these strikes, so this might have been another, the Emiratis just claiming this as a reason to stop their collaboration as bilateral relations collapse in the region. Yep, and that's the latest. So that's what we have in World War III so far. Any more super chats? If anyone has any more questions or things they want me to address, feel free to send them in super chat form. On X, on the Twitter Bird app, I've been having quite the week with the engagement. We'll bring that up now, I guess. That's right. You already know what it is. If you haven't already followed me on X, be sure to follow me at GnomeRad. If you're not on X, make an account for no other reason than just to follow me. Need the support for ratios and whatnot. And earlier this week, I posted, had a vulnerable moment. I posted hey, I could have sworn this was up to 16K likes. Huh. Either way, I posted, had a vulnerable moment. I matched with a girl on Hinge. She said she read over 100 books per year. I said, wow, that's a lot of books. I read books. I don't read over 100 books every year. So I had to inquire, are these gooncore? Is this smut? Or are these real books? And this lovely lady said, obviously real books don't ask stupid questions. So I was like, okay, she reads real books. So I inquired, which has been your favorite one so far? And instead of telling me your favorite book, Jane Eyre, Frankenstein, the classics, maybe she was reading Game of Thrones even, or maybe she's reading, I don't know, Judy Blume or something else for little girls. But she goes, the one where men don't ask condescending questions by reading to a girl. So I go, oh boy. So this is how it's going to be, If you get in a relationship with this type of girl, it's going to be endless attitude like this. And she goes, oh, Conrad. And then, let's put it this way, it didn't go anywhere. But 3.3 million people saw this. And thankfully, it was mostly people agreeing with me. She obviously was mostly reading Gooncore and didn't want to admit it. But we had a subset of women basically telling me I need to kill myself, that I deserve to die. I'm not. See, we had a lot of women agreeing with me still, not really in the replies as much. Oh, Conrad, she wants you bad, bro. Sorry, bro. It's not how it went down. Average dating app experience. Yeah. So, that's how that went down. We had some follow-up content. We celebrate the Dormition. That's what we like to do. And then this was in the replies. I asked, are women okay? This one got 2,000 likes as well. And so in the replies to that tweet, I replied, the amount of women openly confessing to reading smut, often with Christian on their profile, and that girl did, by the way, the girl in the Hinge screenshot did have Christian on her profile, is crazy, TBH. This woman says, why do you care what women read, LMFAO? I said, do you want to date a gooner? And just like women might say they don't want to date a man that watches porn, I think a lot of Christian, especially Orthodox men, don't want to date a woman that, goons to literature. She then goes, women enjoying smut books does not automatically make them gooners. Cognitive flexibility is a fantastic skill to practice. And that one killed me. Cognitive flexibility. Literally a direct synonym for cognitive, mental. Flexibility, gymnastics. It's like you just intelligentsiized, or intellectualized. Sorry. You intellectualized the phrase mental gymnastics and made it sound like something that you should be doing. No, ma'am. Coping mental gymnastics about how you can read your porn, but you're not actually a porn-brained freak. That's not how this works. But that's a classic women avoiding accountability mode. Of course, yes, 2 days ago on Sunday was the Feast of St. Joseph the Hesychast. And here's a picture I took at the grave of St. Joseph the Hesychast where he reposed on Mount Athos. Beautiful, beautiful holy place. And now this post, this started some more female drama. A friend of mine sent me a screenshot he saw in this video. A friend of mine who could himself relate to this situation, obviously not going to name any names. And this is a guy who said, I've tried dating several women who are Orthodox and have been for several years, if not since birth. And the two issues that keep being repeat issues are that they want a rich husband and they want a husband that will still allow them to go clubbing while married. I've never seen priests address this, only tell the men to do better. So I posted this and said, the reason priests don't spend any time talking about what women need to do or the problems that modern women have is because most of them have effectively internalized the idea that men shouldn't tell women what to do at all. This has partially been internalized by the fact that many women will leave a community the moment something offends their sensibilities or doesn't go their way. We will get 100 talks and videos about the evil orthobros and misogynist incels, how porn and video game addicted men don't deserve families, how caring about politics and theology will make you undateable, and so on. Dare I say, I think we get the message. Are women all perfect angels, or do they perhaps need some serious wisdom and reality checks from figures in authority as well? And of course, most people obviously agreed with me. I had clergy agreeing with me, women agreeing with me, mothers agreeing with me and messaging me. Yeah, sorry. The son is raping me, so sorry. Unfortunately, this woman blocked me, so it's hard to see her post. But this woman started freaking out and saying that I'm an evangelical for saying this. But then I found that on her Twitter profile less than 2 years ago, she was thirsting after Luigi Mangione, begging that he convert to Islam because 2 years ago she was a Muslim. Not only was she a Muslim 2 years ago, she was actually a Muslim. Do we have this? She was actually a Muslim very, very recently, earlier this year even, which I find very interesting. But, we got into it in the DMs and she called me a rapist and an evil person for saying that, according to the scriptures, both husband and wife are obligated to have physical intimacy with their spouse. But I made the point, about how priests are basically afraid to criticize young women. So this one mixed her own priest. I know my priest is privy to the online discourse. He often talks about how toxic and hateful the orthobros are in his sermons. So it's a longhouse parish, it sounds like. She says, and this is while she's Muslim, by the way. I was about to marry a white convert, but I'd be lying if I said I don't prefer an Arab man. Mostly because I want my kids to know Arabic. And being a Zaidi, a Yemeni man, would be perfect. Oh my gosh, the LARP, Sahur. Crazy. And this is from why she's Christian. This is from 11 days ago. She says, my ex-Muslim situationship found out I left Islam and was trying to talk me out of it. So I just sent him like 8 hours worth of love. It's like, and then I responded, I made fun of her for this. And she's like, wow, you're against me converting people. It's like, yeah, you're still talking to the brown Arab guy you were fucking. And you post about this as if like, wow, you're so great bringing them in. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. She says, what Orthodox churches are y'all going to where there are not only single women, but single women want to be allowed to go clubbing? Every woman in my church is married with kids. Meanwhile, there's a dozen single men. They already talked trying to court me like I'm fresh meat. She even looks down at the young men at her parish that are literally trying to like flirt with her and whatnot. Now look, this person is not serious, and most girls aren't online like this because look, like this is just not a serious person. Oh no, she deleted the pictures of herself because oh wait, no, probably not. Yeah, look, this is just not a serious person. She had all these pictures in her burqa earlier and whatnot. We don't need to spend too much time on this, but regardless, this is just a perfect example of what I was talking about. This person is just off the chain, literally accusing me of being a rapist because I cited 1 Corinthians 7:5. So ultimately, I'm probably going to try to get her to take the post down because it's not really good, and it's sort of slanderous stuff. So it's not good for her to have that up either, but lying about me. But the women are off the chain, off the goop, they say. Because again, people talk about, single women. She says, what church parishes are you going to? Like, I've been to parishes. I know girls at parishes actively that go to clubs, that are big into clubbing. They're on parish councils. They're on committee plannings for parish festivals. I know men who have had their wife cheat on them while they're married, get pregnant with another man's child, give birth to the child. It's obviously another man's child. And then the community basically sides with the cheater and a person in the community who had the child with the wife, and the husband gets divorced and is driven outside of the community. There's so many examples of this. James Younger, his father, or James Younger's son, how am I forgetting the names of the son, but Mr. Younger, who was Orthodox and he got a divorce, and his ex-wife is transitioning his son into a girl. The Go Arch Parish there supported the woman, the mother, against the father. So there's institutional rot here. Orthodox priests and men are terrified of asserting authority over women because they know the women will at best just leave, at worst. Literally, I'm literally just citing scripture, and she's accusing me of rape. So why would a priest want to tell a woman like this what to do, or tell something that she's doing wrong that she might just accuse him of? She literally this is an unstable freak, and many women, if something doesn't go their way, they're literally willing to make accusations, do insane things. So that's the current state of things. It's crazy. And again, thankfully, she's getting brutally ratioed. Not a single person is agreeing with her. I've got women, mothers, telling her she needs to take a step back, and she's just continuing her histrionics. The classic one here is, I say, you yourself admit many times that the ratio of men to women is crazy at your parish, same as mine, same as most. Is that alone not some evidence that perhaps men are seeking spiritual accountability at a higher rate than women? I think where men fail to lead, women fail to follow. If women aren't comfortable joining the Orthodox Church at a rate the same as men, it's probably because men are failing to be leaders women want to follow. You think women will look at literally allergic to accountability. There's just nothing there's nothing a man can do that warrants him being elevated and given authority, and there's nothing a woman can't do that would cause her to be held accountable. Literally, women can just do everything. I even, at one point, where was the other, I had the replies here. So I said here, if one partner can literally turn off physical intimacy, then they have broken the marriage vow. Do you consider it forcing if a woman has sex with her husband while not wanting to or not being in the mood? She says, yeah. So I say, so you fundamentally don't believe that a woman should ever have to do anything that she doesn't want to do. Quite the interesting world. You can't say it is Christian. Men can just not go to work when they don't want to, huh? Just not protect their wife from physical danger if he doesn't feel like. And that's the thing. Women say, like, look, women say it's rape to compel a woman to sleep with her husband if he doesn't want to, if she doesn't want to, if she doesn't hormonally feel like it, or she's not in the mood or whatever. And this is absurd, obviously. And obviously it goes both ways. A husband can't do the same for a wife. But imagine if a husband woke up and said, look, I have to go to work to make money for my wife and children, but I really don't want to. So I'm not going to. That is him failing to fulfill his obligation as the head of the family. And when a woman says, look, I know that I married my husband and I promised that I said that I made a vow and I said that the two have become one flesh and I submit to him in all things. But, I've had 2 kids and I'm going through menopause now and I just don't want to have sex with him. I just don't want to. It's like, okay, like you are being a narcissist. Like you are going against your marriage vows. And I ask a woman, can a man just stop going to work? Can a man decide that if a murderer breaks into your house and wants to kill you, he's like, no, I'm just going to go outside, leave my wife inside to get killed. Like that would obviously be a dereliction of duty. Like he would literally have a metaphysical responsibility that he has turned against. And women don't believe they have any of that. Women think that that's only something a man should do and that they have no responsibilities at all. Actually, that's the current paradigm that women are operating in. $5 from Jonathan Kelly. No message. Thank you, Patriot. $10 from OrthoUG. Hypergamous Foids. Hypergamous Foids. You know, to the beat of Promiscuous Girl. Let's see. Man, I'm trying to find the Hypergamous Foids song, but I can't find it. Oh well, can't find it. But I want to find that other comment I made about this before we move on and play some EthnoGuesser, as everybody knows. Yeah, I said here, this feminist catechumen thinks that biblical gender roles are rape and slavery, completely unserious. That was not the one I was looking for. I'm looking for, yeah, this is a funny one. She says, woman leaves, this is after I criticized her. It says, woman leaves Islam to embrace orthodoxy. How evil and sinister. Quick, someone tried to drive her away from the Orthodox faith. Woman faces criticism after insulting someone unprovoked. You're being mean to me. If you don't stop, I might leave the faith. It's also times. Exactly like I said. Why don't priests criticize women? Because the moment they are, a woman says, like, he drove me away from the faith. The moment they hear something they don't want to hear, or that, hey, you should do this. Nope. That's a reason to leave. The moment someone criticizes you, the moment a man goes against exactly your wishes, it's like, wow, he's driving me away from the church. It's literally emotional blackmail. She says, these kinds of men scare me because they're clearly not grounded in reality. They hate women as much as feminists hate men. You are expressing feminism. Scapegoat women for literally every social issue. Like, where did I do that? Act like every man is alive as a victim of women. Even the priests are against them. I said, this woman's first response when presented with multiple stories of the church failing to hold women accountable is to say that she is scared. Again, everything this person does is emotional signaling. It's about viewing the social situation and setting herself up dialectically in a way where people will defend her, where I am framed as a predator, as an enemy. It's all extremely internalized feminine defense mechanisms that she's not even aware that she's doing. She's a stupid bitch. It says, how much longer will we suffer female histrionics like this? Why are some women in the church so terrified of accountability? Interesting to think about this in the midst of all the Lindsay Clancy stuff. And it's true. Thousands, millions of women across America are saying Lindsay Clancy is innocent and shouldn't be held accountable for murdering her 3 children because they fundamentally believe and they relate to her, mostly because most of these women have had abortions. But women look at someone like that and see a woman about to be held accountable for something I guess they relate to, the idea of murdering your children. I guess more women than we thought relate to that. The idea of then her being held accountable for something they can relate to themselves, a situation they themselves can relate to themselves being in, it terrifies them. So they are going histrionic. They're going online and they're saying why we have to free this woman. And some of them are, making this, like, literally, I guarantee you certain husbands, if they didn't go along with it, would never sleep with their wives again. So this is exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And this is just a crazy woman. She's going by Derpina is saved. Look, if you're a woman online, you're posting 20K plus times a day and you're not using your own face as your PFP, like, it's cooked. Like, we're at like chopped level over 9,000. So we'll leave it at that. God bless her. I pray that she enters the church. But if she's going to allow a man telling her that feminism isn't orthodox to stop her from coming into the church, then she was not ready to come into the church to begin with. So pray for her. I don't know her baptismal. She's not baptized. She's a catechumen. So pray for extremely deluded Derpina is saved on Twitter. But you already know what it is. $5 from Jonathan Kelly. We need camps. Billions. People say millions must die. I say billions. But beyond that, some even say that we need to allow trillions of people to be born so that trillions can die. Like, that's the level of must die of people that we're at right now. Obviously, I don't know. Unfortunately, yeah, trillions, billions must live. Hey, billions, yeah. But yeah, some people, it's hard to see them being ensouled. But you know what time it is. It's time to play EthnoGuesser. But thank you, Jonathan and OrthoUG, for the super chats. So far, we've had some good input this evening. Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already, head on over to worldwarnow.co and subscribed, whether as for free subscriber or behind the paywall. Please consider doing so. Check out this week's Ether Hour episode with Ubi Petrus. On Thursday, we will be releasing the Ether Hour episode with Cameron McGregor, all about what we think comes next in World War III. So be sure to check all of that out. It's going to be great stuff, but you already know what time it is. Back to EthnoGuesser. Let's do it. Oh, man. It's here. I mean, is this Asia or is this South America? What are we thinking, gang? What are we thinking? Someone says South America, Amerindian. You know, some of this. Someone says like Brazil. Yeah, maybe here. Yeah. South Amazonid. I guess I should have gone farther south, but 2589, not great. Most dynamic Amazonid variety emerged in northern savannas and spread across Brazil to Paraguay and Argentina, pushing back older lagids. All right. All right, let's come back. Okay. Pretty sure this works. No! Isto Nordid. East Nordid variety. Dang it. I thought it was more of a West Nordid. I should have just gone Sweden. Too confident. I mean, look, the guy literally looks, the guy's got a bit of an Anglo look to him, frankly. Purist and Western Finns and West Estonians. I knew it would be this. I just thought it would also include this, and you often have a chance for the 5K more so than even on some of these red areas. Damn it, not great. Not a great round to start off with here. Okay, are these Papuans or Madagascar? Were these Madagascar? Obviously, it's either this or this. But I'm forgetting if it's one or the other. Someone says Malay. Peninsular Malay or Island Malay? South Philippines. I mean, look, I know it's either here or there's just the off chance it's Madagascar. Look, if you're going to say Malaysia, you have to say Peninsular Malaysia or Bornean Malaysia or Sumatra, Indonesia. It's not Cambodia. I mean, is it those Philippine? I'm pretty sure the dark Filipinos look different. I knew it. That's why you have to say peninsular or island. You can't just say Malaysia. I swear. People are always like, Malaysia. All right, well, 39.72. Technically our best round so far. So, yeah, see, Madagascar would have worked too. I knew there was something there. Yeah, this is Sumatra. Like, when you think of this, you have to think of Sumatra. Like, that's who these people are. That's where you have to go. I didn't go South Philippines, bro. Someone said, don't listen to me. Well, that's why I didn't go Southern Philippines. Oh boy, this again. I'm tempted to just do this again. I mean, look, obviously I know these are like Northern Europeans, but if anyone has any specifics, please tap me in. Channel Islander. There we go. This is what I was thinking. This is what I was confused with the last Aryans. So we got 5,000. Yeah, Southern Iceland would have worked as well. Norway, Sweden. Tronder, North European type, combines features of Paleo-Atlantid, Hallstatt, and East Nordid. Good stuff. And here we are. The subcontinent. Where are we dropping, gang? The Sir Johnnies are here. Where are these Johnnies? People are saying Pakistan. I was thinking that too. I was sort of thinking like Kashmiri. You know, maybe some of this around here. Unless people think Baloch. Uttar Pradesh. Someone says Uttar Pradesh. Someone says Kashmir. Pakistani. I mean, I think Kashmir is a good hedge. You know, Jammu hedge. Jammu hedge. What do we think about the Jammu hedge, gang? Thoughts on the Jammu hedge? Tap in. Southern Pakistan. Ooh, he was right with the Southern Pakistan. We still got 35, but yeah. Indo-Bracket. Gujarat would have worked, yeah. Ortho UG here with the call. Obviously, this also like Mumbai, like all the way down to Goa. Like this is really where we should have gone. Truly, I guess the center of this is Ahmedabad. So tap this in. Yeah, not our best round. We're still in the 3,000s on average. Oh boy. Are these like Kyrgyz? Pretty sure these are like here. I'm going to guess this in like 20 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. So if you think this is wrong, you got to yell it out. I'm pretty sure it's like some of this shit. Boom. Plains Pamarid, the most widespread Pamarin variety, typical for the steppes. Yeah, it would have also worked a lot of Mongolia and China. All right, let's tap in 4 5Ks in a row. Oh boy. What am I looking at? Bruh. I mean, the woman makes it kind of clear. I mean, I don't know, bro. What on earth are we looking at, bro? Yeah. I'm thinking like there, like the Thai, Cambodia, Lao border. Boom. Khmerid. Oh, exactly correct. Intermediate type between South Mongolid and Sinoid native of southern Indochina. The type is the result of intermixture followed by cultural brachycephalization typified by the Khmer people of Cambodia. Also in southern Thailand and the mountains of southern Vietnam. So we locked in. All right. Now this is darkest India. Where is darkest India? I mean, there's some darkies in Bangladesh. But is this more of like, I don't know, just like smack in the middle there somewhere? Who knows their Jeets, man? Who knows this stuff? Who's locked in? Sadistan. Ha 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 ha. Someone said, got to go East India. I don't know, man. That's where all those light skins were. What do you mean East India? You mean the entire area where we got light skinned Indians earlier in the round? Someone says Chennai. You know, I feel like we get that one a lot, and it's not these darkies, but who knows? Maybe it's up here. Maybe it's just like here. I feel it's gonna be like here or down here. I feel like those are our choices. Just north of Tamil. Yeah, I mean that's Chennai. That's what we're talking about. So no, Maldivians are darker than this. Yes. Carnatic. South Indian type found in its purest form in Tamil Nadu in northern Sri Lanka. Great work, Jonathan Kelly. True World War Now patriot. And we're climbing back up the leaderboard, gang. 2 5Ks in a row. Oh boy. Oh boy. And we've had this before. And I'm forgetting. Oh man, I'm forgetting. Where's Alan? We've had this. Someone in the chat's gotta lock in. Someone says Mongol. I think they're right. I think Mongolian might have been correct here, but I'm not really sure. Korean. I don't think these are Koreans, man. We've gotten these ones before. They're not Korean. Like it's like some of this type of stuff out. It's like out here. It's Mongolia or out here. Boom. Gobid. Tungid variety of the vast Central Asian deserts. Dude, we're locked in. We are locked in. I went right on the Russia-China-Mongolia border. It's called we hedge borders for transnational ethnic groups. We lock in. Tungid variety. All right. Here we go. Oh boy. Oh boy. We've had this one before, gang. We've had it before. I can't remember. Is it the mountain people or is it this Basque type? Lock in. We might be able to secure top 5%. An incredible comeback. We're hearing Moravian. Is that correct, though? I feel like we've had this one before. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Like, I just feel like we've had this. And it was slightly different than this. Although this is starting to make more sense. Someone says Breton. Woman is hot. It is Basque. I don't know, man. Pyrenees. German-Czech border. So we've got people saying Basque. We have people saying German-Czech border. People saying Breton. People saying Moravian, which is, German-Czech border in a lot of ways. Like, what do we do? I'm tempted to do this, but if it's the Basque one, I'm gonna feel pissed off because that one's a very small little one that you have to get. If someone is actually convicted, they got to send a super chat to make it clear which one someone, because some people just say stuff, low conviction, other people lock in. I don't think it's a Breton, but I'm gonna go here. Yeah. Oh, I got the 5,000. Let's go. Yeah, these are North Pontid, altered Mediterraneoid of Eastern Europe that connects Pontids with more northern types. Top 7%. Okay, we saved top 10, but not top 5. 6 perfect rounds, 42, 42. It was just those early rounds that kind of screwed us over. So, not bad. Not a bad round. Not a single person was saying farther Eastern Europe, Belarus, which now that I look at this guy, I've seen this guy in Russia before. So, this is not Britain. Get that out of the noggin because that was wrong. But yeah, I mean, I've been to Eastern Europe and I've seen a lot of people that look like this. But top 7% could be worse. But look, previous rounds we were top 1, top 2, top 3%. So this is definitely a drawback. It's very it's a good game out here. But thank you everyone for tuning in. If anyone else has any final super chats, feel free to send them in. I will be happy to answer and address them. I want to thank everyone that super chatted so far: Porphyry Allen, Andrew Palamos, MR Christ is King, Steve Grady, Jonathan Kelly, Ortho UG. You guys are the ones keeping the lights on here at the World War Now bunker. So I want to thank everyone again for tuning in. Let's check the news. Has anything changed? No breaking news updates, but of course we are going to be monitoring the situation here at World War Now as Iran escalates their force posture. I'd say at the end of this month, the beginning of September, Trump will have tried and failed to economically squeeze Iran, and Iran will begin launching their surprise attacks. So keep that in mind. Take that to the bank if you want, I guess. That's how I think this is going to go down. And stay tuned. Again, be sure to support us over at worldwarnow.co. If you haven't already, get behind the paywall. If you don't want to get behind the paywall, become a free email subscriber. It's really what helps us out. Of course, people watch the stream over there as well. Got a lot of people in the Substack chat as well. Again, you can always... Someone was asking me in the Substack chat to post the Antelope Hill link. I'll send that in the chat there. But again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Remember, on the Substack, like I said, you don't just get access to this, you can watch the live stream as well. From the Substack, chat with me in there, get access to the full Ether Hour suite. Of course, every World War Now episode is available as well. All of our Q&A episodes, which are available in full for paid subscribers. And of course, all the Ether Hour interviews, hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, more than you could absorb in frankly, months and months' time. So be sure to check this out. Get behind the paywall at worldwarnow.co. Dropping it in the link in the chat. Again, one of the best ways to support the show. If you're already behind the paywall or just want to support us for the one time, head on over to our Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com/World War Now. UG blocking most of my super chats. Can't say anything J related. That's brutal. If people want to send those more based super chats and you're a paid subscriber, maybe send them in the future. Maybe we can send them in the World War Now chat and I can just read them because I'll see who's a paid subscriber. But be sure to head on over to buymeacoffee.com/World War Now if you want to support us more than just being a paid subscriber, or if you want to just support us with a one-time payment. That's one of the best ways to do it. And of course, head on over to antelopehillpublishing.com. Whatever books you want to get, use code WWN for 10% off. A lot of really good stuff. I, of course, got The Burning Souls from Leon DeGrelle from them. Great short read. Started reading it 2 days ago. Done with it now. It's really good stuff. Very inspiring. The Germany in Stalin's Crosshairs, very important book. And of course, Culture of Critique in its 3rd edition from Kevin MacDonald, one of the preeminent thinkers on, the Jewish question in these circles. Again, in 2017, I read the 2nd edition of this book, and it really, enlightened me to a lot of things. So in its 3rd edition, use code WWN for 10% off. One of the best ways to support us and our sponsors here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Not seeing any more super chats, so I'm probably going to land the plane here in the next minute or two. But I want to encourage everyone, don't just subscribe on the Substack and all these other places. Be sure to follow us on X at World War Now _. That's right here. Great place to support us. Of course, you can follow me on X at GnomeRad. You can find us on Telegram at World War Now Telly. You can, of course, find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. You can leave us 5 stars on there. Leave us some comments. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment on this episode. Let us know how you think this stream was. I'd love to reply to you. Talk to you guys, get to know you better. So with all of that, be sure to check out the Discord as well. We also have Instagram. If you're on Instagram, search World War Now _. Follow the account there. I'm trying to be more active on there. Eventually may start streaming there as well. So give the Instagram a follow. Follow us on Telegram. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, X, Substack, all these places. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Soaker City says, great stream. I agree. It was, in fact, a great stream. So with all of that, I want to thank everyone once again for tuning in. And we will see you on the next one. Hold up. We'll see you on the next one. God bless.